Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a conversation with artist Peter Jablokow. He is a watercolor painter and one of the exhibiting artists in the Evanston Made group show. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Lisa.
I am intentionally trying to do these interviews in front of a white wall, and I am so inspired by what's on your wall because it looks fantastic with vintage movie reels.
Yeah, I've painted those and made them look like they're huge, old machinery, by getting low and looking up. So they kind of act in the same way as like a huge old bridge or steam engine or something like that. But it's for my inspiration too.
Super beautiful. And yeah, let's talk about what you have in the show because it's a fantastic piece, but I'm intrigued by your affinity for large, decrepit industrial objects. So let's talk about the painting first.
It's up in the UP and Keweenaw Peninsula. It's a large peninsula. It sticks way out into Lake Superior. And it has a pure seam of copper running underneath Lake Superior that comes out on this peninsula. So they found it in the 1840s and been mining it till 1960s. And this is a machine that repurposing older copper tilings that are at the bottom of the lake, Torch Lake, and they're sucking it up like a vacuum cleaner and bringing it back and repurposing it, trying to get more copper out of it. It's a big floating machine that sank in the 50s, and they just left it. So it's been there since the 50s, and you can just go in there.
So there's a huge rotting out, decrepit thing just sticking out of the lake that nobody has cleaned up?
Yeah, there's also a factory across the road on the other side that's also, I just painted, you can walk right into. It's pretty remote. I mean, it's up in the UP. It's a beautiful area. In summer, it's full of water, which we're going to go up soon to look at. But we often go up in winter, so in winter you can walk in there, and everything's off kilter. This is using a panorama on the iPhone, so that's why it's so long and narrow.
Oh, and that's why there's snow drifts inside. Oh,
so that's water level, and then it's windy. It's like South Bend, Indiana. Get a ton of lake effect snow, like between 300 and 400 inches of snow. So it's all blowing inside there. You can hear the pigeons in there, but it's not nearly as big as it looks. So because I go all the way around with the camera.
And you do such a long, skinny, beautiful. It's a beautiful size painting.
Oh yeah, I like it. It's hard to get a composition that runs all the way through well when it's so long.
Mm-hmm.
I think this one worked out okay.
Sometimes
it gets chopped up.
And it's in watercolor, which is also weird and wonderful at the same time. Like it's super muted. It's beautiful.
Well, the watercolor, the stuff has been rusting and weathering for decades. So the watercolor allows you to put layer after layer after layer of, like each layer is a year of weathering and on top of each other. So if you do it enough, it kind of mimics the way it actually happened. So that's something that watercolor can do well.
I'm thrilled by the piece. Thank you for submitting it. I'm very glad you're in the show. What is on your canvas right now? What is it that you're currently working on?
It's a bridge. It's almost done. It's on Western and the 55 on the Kennedy, the Stevenson. So it looks like that. It's almost done.
Oh.
Actually, I've done it. I did it once and I sold it, so I'm doing it again because I want to put it in the show.
It's fantastic.
But it's right off the Stevenson. You can see it clearly from the road if you look, but you have to know to look.
And you look at bridges that are large.
Well, I like to climb on them and uh, go inside and up, and it's a little dangerous, but it's fun.
Oh, so you don't just like photograph from your car driving by, you get out and explore and get into them?
Yeah, I like images that really come a little less of a portrait. You're kind of inside or right up next to it. Often put the camera on the ground or on the tracks or below the track level.
Nice.
Yeah, it reminds me of being a kid, and you get so excited running around, new things where you can climb on top of it and around it. Um, kids always get excited by that. I always did, and this is just a larger version of the same thing. And that's what I still probably have the same feeling I did when I was a kid. So I'm trying to kind of express that.
Like excitement and perspective. And we're not small when we grow up, we don't have a lot of chances to be little physically.
Yeah, well, I'm 5'2", so a lot of things I can't reach.
But then you climb on them. That's interesting. But you're working on a commission too. Can we talk about that a little bit? Or is it?
Yeah, I've been working last year and this year with Tom Rozak. He's an architect, and they're building this year on Wabash and Randolph. It's a nice building, and that's a really nice location. It's a huge building, but he likes to have original art in his buildings. He doesn't want to buy it, the stuff you see in hotels. He doesn't want. He wants nice paintings. So, and they're large. I'm not exactly sure where they go, but this one has 5 3-foot by 4-foot watercolors, which I cannot do to the detail I do the smaller ones. So I do a lot of throwing paint at the canvas.
Are they're representative? They're of the building that's going up, so that
No, this one is close-ups of Chicago, like the bridges that go over the river. I did a Pritzker Pavilion, being inside that and kind of looking up the Picasso statue and a few bridges.
Nice.
I can actually.
And they're huge, 3 feet by 4.
Yeah. So this one's the size of a door. You can see behind me.
Wow.
You can see the doorway. So that's pretty big for watercolor for me.
That's huge. These are obviously going inside some type of lobby.
Well, the one I just showed you is in an amenity space on the 20th floor, the top floor for the community, for everyone that works in the building. They have pool tables and a bar and indoor-outdoor space and seating. And then they have these paintings. And he has a few other artists too. It's a really nice space. I think that's 145 South. Yeah, I don't remember this street.
That's very cool. So you're busy. You're not just hanging out watching Netflix, Peter.
No, this is great for me, because I always think, if I had this unstructured time, I could really get something done. I always want to do something and have to do something else. And then that time appeared. Turns out I was right. I'm actually doing what I had hoped.
Oh, that's such a great feeling. And you're not totally sidelined and devastated by not going to endless parties.
I don't mind the parties. I feel like when we go to art openings and things like that, and the opening receptions, I feel like I fit in with the people at those events. So I like going and doing that. But I don't mind being by myself. And I mean, it's really a solitary thing I'm doing. And it hasn't affected me nearly as much as some other people.
Nice. And you're super busy. Talk to me a little bit about your background as an artist. You are a trained architect that has come to art a little bit later.
Well, my mom was a watercolor painter. So she painted the kitchen table every day. And she would stop when I got home from school. So I'd watch her put our stuff away. So it's always been there. So I've always drawn and tried to paint watercolor, but was never very good at it. but I want to do something in that way. I became an architect to get a job, actual job was the idea.
Paycheck, right.
Yeah, but then I was laid off from SOM, which is a large firm downtown, and they said, well, you should go see this illustrator. He's always looking for people. So I went there and I started doing that. So I was illustrating buildings. And I did that for a long, long time. I learned a lot from that. But that all fell apart in 2008 with that crash. And it never came back because it went to computer or China. So I had to figure something out. My wife said, take a class. So I went to North Shore Art League, and with Peggy McNamara, I took her class, watercolor class. I didn't know who she was.
Oh,
It was the class. Janet said, sign up for this one. And she was perfect. She got me excited. I was in the Keweenaw Peninsula, which I'm talking about, with the copper mines, and I had pictures of that. So I started painting that, and she was excited about it. I got excited about it. So that was 2010, and I've been doing that ever since. So I finally, something hooked that I was excited about. I found it, which wasn't that easy. And I'm still on that roll with that.
Some of your language, I could be mishearing you. Have you referred to yourself as not that good at watercolor?
Well, I wasn't until 2010, where I started to do it every day.
Oh, and it's really, okay.
There's a lot of, watercolor is not that easy to pick up at the start, especially if you have a lot of other like composition issues and getting a full value range and this and that. You have a lot of other issues. It's hard to pick it up and learn all those things at the same time. But I had learned a lot of those with my illustrations. So I picked up the paint and I was able to get going a little faster, I think, because it was just the paint that I had to figure out.
Okay, good, because that was confusing when you were like, I'm not that good of a watercolor. You talk a little bit about like the looser style of watercolor. Is that something you want to get good? Is that like where you're going to go?
It's something I would like to be good at, but I don't think it's my personality to do that. It's something people expect or they think of with watercolor, is that it's loose and fresh, but it doesn't have to be. And I'd like to be able to do that, but it isn't my goal. I don't mind doing the tighter, a lot of texture and tighter things. It's not my goal, but
do you have a very
kind of what's that?
Do you have a very big content range? Like, do you go from like flowers to, let's say, abstract to building, or do you have a pretty consistent vein in your body of work?
It's pretty consistent. It's pretty consistent. Though I do I do like doing flowers, surprisingly. I don't have as much energy because it's internally motivated. I really have to be interested, so a lot of things I say I should do that, and I don't. But the flowers somehow I like doing, so I do flowers. I make cards and different things.
Okay, and then last question: who is your inspiration, either current, local, or from years ago, or multiple?
Well, I have to say that Peggy McNamara, who I took that first class from, really was the one that got me going, and her style is very similar to mine. We use similar colors and wander with colors, and there's a similarity there that I caught on to, and I mean, she really got me going. So I think I mentioned Andrew Wyeth because compositionally so strong. He did watercolor sometimes, but it's so crisp, and I like that. I'm not to his level of composition yet. That's something I'm working on.
Yeah, no. And speaking of compositions, your composition is fantastic. In the piece you have in the show, what I thought Well, there were three things that really stood out. The color is just fantastic. And now that you were describing sort of the copper around, now that makes more sense. The snowdrifts, the inside outside aspect of it was wild, but also it looked like you were being swallowed. Like the composition of it just makes it look like you were just in the belly of this crazy monster beast of architecture. And that's essentially what you were.
It does feel that way.
Cool. It's so great.
It does feel that way, and it's sideways, and if it's sunny and the sun hits the snow and it gets super bright colors in there, and there's graffiti everywhere, it's really dangerous.
Thank you so much for your time today and for this conversation and for joining the show. It's been so nice to talk to you, Peter.
Thanks, Lisa.